Welcome to our first segment of the Oregon Minute. This week we are interviewing Police Chief Jennifer Pagenkopf amid the unrest caused by George Floyd's passing and what that means for the department, as well as changes the department has undergone amid COVID-19. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you.
So my first question to you, Chief, is how are you settling in even though the world is in crisis right now?
I'm doing well. What I have to my benefit is a great staff. Mm-hmm. Any good leader recognizes the staff they have and how great they are, and they have really been resilient, mm-hmm. reliable, and committed to this community through all of this. Mm-hmm. That is just what I need as a leader mm-hmm. right now.
Mm-hmm. And so you became chief, what is it, almost 3 weeks ago now?
Yes.
Yes. So, and there's a lot that has happened, obviously,
yes.
since you've become
chief. No more than whether it was acting chief or permanent chief. When that went in front of my name, it was as if off we went to the races. It was the mm-hmm. challenges with COVID-19, and now the death of George Floyd.
Mm-hmm. What are your overall goals for the department in your new role, if you could summarize those?
Yes. You know what? I've had the privilege of serving this community for about 15 years, and I know the great things that exist in this community and the great people that have worked very hard to provide resources to this community, and I want our agency to partner with those. Mm-hmm. I want this police department to not occupy this community, but to partner with every part of it. Mm-hmm. I look at this is us taking care of our community, and that's what I want to instill in our officers, our staff, is this is our community. Mm-hmm. How can we best take care of it?
What changes to policing are you considering community policing? And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago for an Observer story, particularly amid the unrest spawned by the passing of George Floyd, mm-hmm. and of course amid the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yes, you know what, one of the reasons I was so interested in becoming the chief of police with Oregon is I recognize I'm a result-driven person. I may not have all of the answers, but I seek those answers. I seek input from the community. I want to hear from them their concerns, their questions, and work with them to find solutions. And I feel that result-driven characteristic I have can help get us to some positive change moving forward.
So maybe talk a little bit about what you offered in the village board meeting, because you mentioned that there would be annual check-ins for officers, like speaking with a professional counselor about traumas they faced on the job, or there are virtual trainings that you are implementing. Maybe tell me a little bit more about those.
Yes, one of my primary goals coming in, you kind of have they call them 30, 60, 90-day goals. Mm-hmm. I try not to focus too much on those because I want this community to help direct me on what I do and move and what my goals will be. Mm-hmm. But one that I did come in with to start was officer wellness. That's a very important component to policing, is officers being able to take care of themselves. They see very traumatic situations. Mm-hmm. And even in a safe community like this, they see those things. I've seen those things. Mm-hmm. It could be a traffic accident where there's fatalities or just very difficult scenes to look at. It could be then something like a child abuse case where it's hard for people in general to understand how badly they can treat other people, what they can do to themselves. And you have to have mechanisms in place for officers to be able to process that and still remain positive and remain feeling good about being in the profession they're in. The Healthy Minds, in fact, we just now are in the contract process of having them come on. They are specifically designed for first responders, especially law enforcement. Many of our surrounding law enforcement agencies here use them, and on a yearly basis, at a minimum, our officers will be required to check in and just sit down with a counselor and talk. They can talk about whatever they want. They're not required to talk, but they are paid 1 hour to go up there and that is their opportunity. Could there be more? Yes, but it's a start. But there's that stigma to law enforcement that we're tough. We should be able to absorb this and still be the good person that we are. And I'm not saying our officers aren't. They're great people, but we need to take good care of them too, and their mental health. And they can go up, they can talk, but it breaks that stigma. And it kind of helps them accept the idea of, if they need it, it's there. And it also, gives the counselor a chance to explain, well, even if you're not experiencing these sort of issues now, here's some things that if you encounter are ways you can, move forward in a positive direction. So that was a very high priority on my list. There were a lot of other strategies throughout the document that I presented to the village board. Some of them addressed pedestrian safety, bicycle safety, because a lot of our community is very concerned about that. They like enjoying the safe community we live in. They want to be able to walk and bike safely. So what we do is we are trying to partner with those resources, those other groups within this community, to have a community approach in how to address safety concerns versus just a law enforcement approach. Not just a, here's your ticket, pay the fine. It's how can we as a community tell others this is important to us and this behavior needs to stop. Yes, we can hold you accountable, but we just want everybody to think of people's safety as, they see bicyclists out or pedestrians. So there are those strategies.
And then tell me some more about the virtual trainings that you talked about at the most recent village board meeting, on the basis, of course, of race and diversity.
Yes, and some of that training kind of it hit two birds with one stone kind of ordeal. Unfortunately with COVID-19, there's not a lot of in-person training offered. So we wanted to make some positive change, if anything in respect of George Floyd's family. They deserve law enforcement to learn from this and do something positive. So we did some fair and impartial training through online training. Is it what I would prefer? No, I would prefer that in person, getting that full impact, and we will follow up with that training when we get past this COVID pandemic. But another training that we did, as well as the fair and impartial policing, was pressurized people training, they call it. And it's a sort of training where, and it's not just in what we're seeing with the death of George Floyd, it's also, we had some very intense moments with people because of COVID-19. People are just stressed. And this pressurized people training, what it teaches officers and reminds them of is slow down. Yes, you want to be there to help, but just let time calm things down. Use certain words to help de-escalate situations. Use certain techniques to help. And it runs officers through scenarios and reminds them of these techniques. They've already been taught them, but it's always good to have that refresher. And they used these scenarios to just help the officer, and that's things they can reflect on as they walk into a scene. Is, oh yes, I remember this scenario, and then they can work through that. I've already gotten very positive feedback from all staff about the fair and impartial policing training and also the pressurized people training. And in fact, our staff was quite troubled by the incident that happened with George Floyd, and they've stepped forward and asked, what else can we do to help our community know this isn't who we are? And so we're lining up more training, and then they're going to be a part of that, and that's great. That really helps to just keep this momentum going.
And that was going to be my next question: is did you see the video?
Yes.
And what was your initial reaction to seeing
Anger.
what happened? Yeah.
Yeah, anger. I've dedicated my life, and there's everyone else that wears an Oregon uniform. We try to do good with. We're given all this power and trust. You try to do good with it, and to know one person could just take that and wipe it, and people start to doubt you. People start to associate you with that sort of behavior. It's hard to process. So we've had some internal discussions, and we have a solid mission statement and core values. And you heard Madison PD refer to theirs as well. That's really important to each agency. That is what keeps you ticking within your agency. And we go back to that. We go back to the drawing board, and we remind our staff, this is who we are. that is not us.
What message, amid these crises, do you want the department to convey during this uncertain time?
Respect, integrity, patience, and I think they do exhibit those, but just reminding them to just stay true to that. I had one thing back, in 2008 when I was a field training officer, and I still teach this as a leader within a department, is I treat people as if I am how I would want an officer to treat my family, my own family. And it is frustrating sometimes because people challenge you, people may threaten you, but people are in crisis. They're going to react a way that's hard to process. We have to be the ones to remain strong and calm in that, and still try to insert whatever help we can. And I think our staff completely gets that, and that goes back to that mission statement that we have. So where I plan on going with the department, one of the advantages I have, having served for this community for 15 years, is I have either worked alongside those officers under that roof for the 15 years or been a part of the hiring them, training them, mentoring them, and leading them. And you find things in certain employees that they can bring extra things to policing, or they can bring unique characteristics to our community in serving it. And I'm excited about doing that. An example would be, we have one officer, he's got a charisma about him. People just can really relate to him, and especially children, and so we're trying to get him to interact more with children and just open up that dialogue and comfort with them. Another one would be, we have a sergeant who's very IT savvy. I am not. I don't even know how to use Facebook half the time. But he is, and it's just so cool to see us take that and really let it blossom and really use it to our advantage in serving our community. So, what I see, where I would like our agency to go, is continue to find creative, genuine, and unique ways of serving our community, not just policing it. I have always been a fan of our community events, and it is disheartening with COVID-19 we can't have them. So we've been trying to find unique ways to do that, the storytelling and things like that. And officers like to be tough. You wonder how they're going to react. Here comes a new chief who's telling them to do these more lighthearted things, and they actually loved it. I think it actually was healthy for them as well, and not being able to converse with the community like they like to. They got to at least do it in this way. And at some of the books that were read, they read to their own children. So they enjoyed that. They enjoyed that opportunity. So that's where I see us heading, is just finding unique ways and just kind of having our own connection with this community.